It's October 1994, and a desperate search for two young boys has gripped the nation.
I want to say to my babies that your mama loves you so much.
On October 25th, 1994, a young mother runs to police in complete panic. Tears pouring down her face, cameras everywhere, the whole of America watching, hearts completely shattered for her. She is begging, she is crying, she is pleading for whoever took her babies to please bring them home. For 9 days, America believed every single word she said. But there was a plot twist, and it was far worse than anything anyone had imagined. This is the story of Susan Smith, the mother who looked an entire nation in the eye and lied without flinching. The woman behind one of the most unthinkable acts of domestic betrayal in American criminal history. Stay with me, because this one is going to stay with you.
To understand why this case shocked America so deeply, you have to understand how Susan Smith appeared to the world in 1994. At first glance, she looked like the perfect small-town mother, young, soft-spoken, attractive, emotional. She lived in Union, a quiet town where most people knew each other and violent crimes were rare. Nothing about Susan seemed dangerous. Friends described her as caring and affectionate towards her children. Her sons, Michael and Alex, were constantly around her. Family photos showed smiling moments that looked completely normal. But behind the scenes, Susan's life was already falling apart. Her marriage to David Smith had become deeply unstable. The couple separated multiple times. Financial problems kept piling up. Arguments became common. And emotionally, Susan appeared desperate for attention and affection. People who knew her later described someone who constantly needed validation from men. She wanted excitement, romance, escape. That need would eventually lead her into a dangerous affair that investigators believe became the motive for murder.
By 1994, Susan and David's marriage was falling apart. Separation, headed for divorce. And Susan had found someone new, or so she hoped. His name was Tom Finlay, the son of her boss. Wealthy, polished, charming. To Susan, he felt like a doorway out of the small town, out of the struggling life, out of everything. But then Tom Finlay wrote her a letter. He was ending things, and the reason he gave, he wasn't ready to take on the responsibility of her children. 2 little boys, her own sons, were standing between Susan Smith and the future she wanted. And that was the moment something irreversible took root in her mind.
October 25th, 1994, a Tuesday night. Susan Smith buckled Michael and baby Alex into their car seats, just like any other night. She drove out to John D. Long Lake, a still, dark reservoir about 9 miles outside of Union. She pulled up to a boat ramp at the water's edge. She put the car in neutral. She got out, and she let it roll. The car, carrying her 2 sons, still strapped in their seats, slowly moved down the ramp and into the black water. Investigators would later determine the car floated on the surface for approximately 6 minutes before it finally sank to the bottom. 6 minutes. Long enough to scream, long enough to jump in, long enough to save them. She didn't go back. Instead, she ran to the nearest house, pounding on the door, screaming, "A black man carjacked me. He took my car. My babies are still inside."
Within hours, it was everywhere. Law enforcement flooded Union County. The FBI was called in. Tip lines lit up. Volunteers poured into the streets to search. Prayer vigils, candlelight, an entire community, an entire country holding its breath. Susan had described her attacker, a black man in a dark knit cap and jeans, who had forced her out of the car at gunpoint at a red light and driven off with her children still inside. A nationwide manhunt began for a man who did not exist. And Susan Smith, in front of every camera she could find, wept, begged, pleaded. Her estranged husband David, having no idea what had really happened, stood beside her and made a heartbreaking public plea. "Please don't hurt them. You can have the car. Just bring my babies home safely, please." America broke open watching it. But investigators were not so easily moved. The story had holes. The location she described didn't fully add up. The timeline was inconsistent. And there was one detail that quietly nagged at Sheriff Howard Wells, a man who had known Susan Smith her entire life. When she had run to that house screaming that night, she wasn't wet, and she also wasn't injured. She had just supposedly watched a man drive away with her children, and she was perfectly dry. For 9 days, she held the lie together. She sat on television and cried. For 9 days, she let the world searching for a ghost.
One of the most controversial parts of the case involved Susan's description of the imaginary kidnapper. She specifically blamed a black man. That accusation triggered immediate panic. Police flooded black neighborhoods searching for a suspect who didn't exist. Innocent people were questioned. Fear spread throughout the community. Many critics later argued Susan exploited racial stereotypes because she believed society would instantly accept the story without questioning her. And for days, it worked. The false accusation created enormous damage. Even after the truth came out, many people never forgot how quickly an entire nation accepted the idea of a dangerous, anonymous black criminal based solely on Susan's word. It became one of the most disturbing social aspects of the entire case.
On November 3rd, 9 days after the boys vanished, Sheriff Howard Wells sat Susan Smith down one final time. He had built trust with her. He had been gentle, patient, present. And now he looked her straight in the eyes, and he said, "Susan, I know you did it." The room went completely still, and Susan Smith, the woman who had performed grief on national television for over a week, collapsed. She confessed and told them where to find her sons. Divers went to John D. Long Lake, and at the bottom, inside the submerged Mazda, they found Michael and Alexander, still in their car seats. The detail that investigators said stopped them cold. Inside that car, alongside her children, were Susan's wedding dress and her family photo album. As if she hadn't just tried to drown her boys, she had also tried to bury her entire life underneath the lake. The nation that had wept with her turned overnight. The grief they held for her became rage.
Susan Smith was charged with 2 counts of murder. Her trial in July 1995 became a global event, unfolding at the exact same time as the O.J. Simpson trial. The judge banned cameras, worried about the circus television had made of that courtroom. The prosecution, led by Tommy Pope, painted a picture of cold calculation, a woman who saw her children as obstacles and removed them. The defense argued Susan had gone to that lake intending to die alongside her boys, that she was suicidal, shattered by years of abuse and mental illness, that stepping out of the car at the last second was a breakdown, not a plan. Prosecutors had a simple answer. If she meant to die with them, why wasn't she in the water? The jury took 2 hours, guilty on both counts. Susan Smith was sentenced to life in prison. The death penalty, which the prosecution had sought, was not imposed. The jury extended to her a mercy she had not extended to her sons.
More than 30 years later, the Susan Smith case still disturbs people for one reason above all others: deception. This wasn't just murder, it was manipulation on a national scale. For 9 days, Susan convinced millions of people she was a grieving mother. She hugged reporters, she cried during interviews, she begged for help finding children she already knew were dead. That level of emotional performance shocked the public more than almost anything else. And even today, people continue debating whether Susan truly loved her children, or whether her desire for a different life became stronger than maternal instinct itself. The answer may never fully be understood.
Michael and Alex.
You don't think she's been rehabilitated?
I don't think she'll ever be rehabilitated. To me, she's never even been really sorry for what she did.